as we come together in the consciousness of the one mind, the one power, the one presence. It lives its life in us as us. In the effervescence of that life, what we celebrate love, we celebrate joy, we celebrate transitions, we celebrate modalities of, and we move and have our being in the presence of God. And in this presence, we are exuberant. And today we're reminded of the many celebrations of transitions in the winter solstice, into the Christmas journey, and into all the different celebrations from all the various religions around the world, and all the agriculture that have established this time of year as a time of transition of the winter solstice, moving into the sun and starting a new year. And let this be the blessing that we all express in our lives, the newness that we bring forth through us as us, and coming together in this community. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Originally, Kevin had asked a question, knowing I have a Jewish last name, and going on the assumption that everybody goes on that my husband is Jewish. Well, he is Hebrew by heritage, but he was not brought up Jewish. And Kevin's question was, what kinds of adjustments did you have to make? Well, we didn't make any because he had a Christmas tree. I own the menorah. But if we were true Jew and Catholic going to get married, I'm sure Charlie would know this too, one of you would have to convert, or there would be no marriage, or you'd both be dead to your family, pretty much. And I know somebody that's happened to. He no longer existed because he married a Catholic girl, and he was done. So for the girl, she'd have to learn the dietary restrictions, what kind of plates go with what can't be served with what. Thank God I didn't have to bother with that. So then we decided to talk about Hanukkah and Christmas traditions. And I did a lot of research on Hanukkah. And Hanukkah was established when, in the 2nd century CE, the Jews rose up against the Greeks, because the Greeks were forcing them to take on their religion, and the Jews wanted to be able to, because most of the rest of the world was pretty good at, you do what you want, we'll do what we want. Well, they put their statues in the temple in Jerusalem, and that really ticked off the Jews. So they went to battle, and they were surrounded, their supplies were cut off, and they discovered they only had 1 day's worth of lamp oil. Now, the lamp had to stay lit in the sanctuary, and the Catholics still do this, because that meant the presence of God was there, and they could not take a chance of using him. So miraculously, that 1 day's worth of oil lasted 8 days, and at the end of the 8 days, they won. They drove the Greeks out. So they cleaned the temple, and it's technically a rededication of the temple in Jerusalem. And they feel that that meant that God was on their side. So they turned it into a big celebration every year. They celebrated being able to get their temple back and be able to free to celebrate. Now, as I was going through things, I found something very interesting. A gentleman named Michael Laitman was part of the Jewish Federation. And he wrote, "What happens during the 8 days of Hanukkah? The 8 days and the lighting of the candles on each of the 8 days of Hanukkah stand for 8 portions of spiritual light, filling us and aiding our ascent beyond the boundaries of our egotistical desires, where we enter a unified reality balanced with nature, free from the limits and pressures of our world. I thought, wow, that fits in with us when you think about it. Um, Light, in the wisdom of the Kabbalah, means the force of love and bestowal dwelling in nature, and the lighting of the candle represents the addition of this force that helps us rise above our own egos. It's customary to light one candle for each night of Hanukkah, and they do not write left to right, they write right to left. So you start with the right hand candle. There's a candle in the middle, and that's called the shamas, and that one you use to light every candle. And I wrote the prayer down. I finally found the prayer. While you're lighting the candle, say, "Blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to light the Hanukkah light. Blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, who performed miracles for our ancestors in their days at this season. Blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this season." And there's a blessing that they use for refugees after the lighting. It says, "Thank you for the miracles, for rescuing us, for the courageous acts you performed, for saving us, and for the battles you waged in defense of your people." And there's another one, "We kindle these lights to commemorate the saving acts, miracles, and wonders you have performed for our forefathers in these days through your holy priest." Wasn't really the priest, it was actually the fighter. Anyway, throughout the 8 days of Hanukkah, these lights are sacred and are not permitted to be used except to look at and meditate upon and offer thanks and praise to God in his great name for his miracles, his wonders, and his salvation. I always thought that was a beautiful prayer. Back to Michael, what's his name? He says the journey starts with the Sephirah of Malchut. It's the powerful force of reception, and then it rises through 8 Sephirs, through Yesod, Hod, Netzel, Keferet, Deborah, and Hesed, up to the Sephirah of Bina, which is characterized by total giving. So by the time you get to the 8th day, you should completely understand what it is to give from the heart, and not for selfish reasons. Reaching Bina represents the completion of Hanukkah. In other words, Hanukkah does not designate our full spiritual development, but only a portion where we shift from egoism to altruism and stop or park when we reach altruism. This is marked in the word Hanukkah, which is a connection of 2 words actually. Hanu, it means stop or park, and then Kol means here. So I think the significance of they've had a victory in the face of incredible odds against the Greeks, because their whole nation did not fight with them. They had some dissenters within their own religion, so it was up to a few. So the symbol, or many say the miracle, of durability, an oil lamp in the temple sanctuary only had 1 day of oil, but lasted for 8. Hence the custom of serving deep fried foods like latkes, which are potato pancakes, which are delicious, and I do know how to make. And then they do deep fried donuts, which would probably give you a gallbladder a devil. I believe the lighted lamp in the sanctuary to the people really presented the presence of their God. And as I said, the Catholics also, we always had a sanctuary light. That light was never allowed to go out in my church. And if it did, there was heck to pay. So I looked up the origin of Christmas lights on Christmas trees and found very little, surprisingly. But it actually began in Germany in about 1660. And it was first they put candles in the window, just let their neighbors know, they were celebrating. And then they started, this was dangerous because it caused a lot of fires. They would wax it or wire the candle to the tree branches. And basically it wasn't for light, it was to show up the beauty of the ornaments they had made and put on their tree. And there's a rumor that Martin Luther actually was the first one to put them on his tree to teach his children some kind of lessons about the light. Because solstice, again, is this time of year, and it's the coming back of light, according to the pagans. It was the end of the darkness, and the light was coming back. So it's very interesting that almost every religion has a festival around this time of year. And I really think scientists have discovered Jesus was not born in December. He was born in December, but anyway, I don't know that for sure. But when I was growing up, we had a picture of the child Jesus with this humongous halo, and it was called the light of the world. And so the Christians took the light and decided that Jesus came to be the light in our world. And we still call him that today, and we have a lot of songs and a lot of music that goes along with that. So I just, I find it interesting how everybody borrowed stuff from everybody else. Newgrange with the solstice, being able to see that light through the tunnel, and I think Shirley has actually been there. I'm not sure. I know she went to Stonehenge. I don't know whether she went to Newgrange or not. Matthew's been to Newgrange. He said it's a little scary because it's like walking into a tunnel. But to be allowed to be at Newgrange for solstice is quite a privilege. They only allow so many people to go and watch as the sunrise and come through the mound. And they say it's breathtaking. I've had some friends in Britain that have been and said it just took their breath away. It was just so amazing and so stunning, and so you just felt filled with the light. It felt like it was coming just to you, just into your heart, to open you up and give you its blessing. So I really think, as much as Christmas and even Hanukkah's gotten pretty commercial these days, and most of the groups in Rhode Island and Connecticut actually do follow Christian, putting up trees, getting presents. In the old days, when I was a kid, my father worked for a Jewish family in a food store, and they gave one gift every day of Hanukkah. There wasn't a pile of stuff that the kids got on one day. Every day, the kids got one gift, and that's all they got. So they did things a little bit differently. They were a little more traditional. But whenever I was sick, one of them we always called Uncle Arthur, who was a little bit off, would come and visit me and bring me toys, and he'd bring me paper dolls, and he was just wonderful. So I learned a lot more about the Jewish religion than Matthew ever did, which is interesting. And actually, Matthew was a little disappointed. He said, "Why would you be interested in a religion that doesn't respect women?" Well, back in their history, there were a lot of powerful women, Ruth and Esther. Those women were not lay down via carpet kind of women. So that's just sort of changed through the years. but when the patriarchy again took over, um, because the women don't sit on the same side of the temple. They have to either have a hat or a wig on. Why a wig, I don't know. But some lady tried to explain it to me. I didn't get it. Again, if you are traditional, you have Seder on Friday, which is a meal, a special meal, with special herbs. And you always leave one empty place for, in case Elijah decides to come and visit you. And why they picked Elijah, I have no idea. But that's what Cousin Fanny explained to me. And the Silvermans actually stuck to, they did not work on Saturday. My father was always in charge of it. So on Saturday, they did nothing on Saturday. All the food was prepared on Friday. They had Seder, and whatever was left over, they had on Saturday, and then they living their life on Sunday. So it's kind of similar because for years, and Charlie and Bobby, you know, you were Catholic, we couldn't eat meat on Friday. Remember those days? It was definitely no-no unless you had special dispensation from the priest, and that was usually for men who worked a long day on Friday. My father could always eat meat on Friday because he worked a 10-hour day. But the rest of us, you know, had fish and chips or macaroni and cheese or whatever. We could not eat meat. So the similarities I find really interesting uh, in being able to watch them as I was growing up and be involved in some of them. Because Uncle Arthur was great at explaining things to me. He was a dear person. He was known as a local character in town. But he was a very loving man. Um, and I was blessed to have him in my life. Because my parents, whenever, especially when I was in the hospital, my parents never had time to come and visit me. So Uncle Arthur would spend the whole day. The nurses loved him because he'd bring them cookies. And he was quite a character. Um, so, you know, I just find it interesting that almost everybody has a light celebration. But I hadn't ever heard that the Festival of Light was definitely a rededication of the temple, and I'm sure it was the Temple of Solomon because it was the only temple in Jerusalem that they're still fighting over. But I hadn't heard that it was a rededication because they had to clear out all the false gods quotes, from the Greeks. And I was amazed that the Greeks did that because the Greeks, I always learned in history, were pretty open-minded guys, but they just wanted it their way, and the Maccabees said, "Nope, we ain't playing that game anymore." Um, so now you know why you put lights on Christmas tree and what the celebration is. Um, and when you do let me get my menorah. I'll show you.
Hi, everybody. I'm wishing you a happy Christmas and a new year. My visiting nurse is here, so I have to get off the phone, but I'm wishing you all and loving you all. And just seeing all of your beautiful faces will help me through the day. Love you all.
Love to
Love
you.
you too.
Love you all.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
A little dusty, but mine is brass. They come in all kinds of glass. I've seen some really weird glass ones, but they're all crooked because they got a little warp. This is the Seamus that gets lit first, and then we start with this one. And they let it burn down for 20 minutes and then they shut it off. And some people put a new one in every single day so that at the end they have 8 that are lit. Others don't do that. They just one at a time. And I guess that's left up to a person's preference. Boy, it's dirty. Ugh. Then up on over the stove. Um, so, you know, Matthew was amused when I told him I had the menorah. He said, "Oh, my mother would have got a kick out of that." But his parents wanted nothing to do with being Jewish. They grew up in New York and found, and this is a quote from Joshua, that the New York Jews were too pushy. So they moved to Connecticut on a farm, um, and had a good life, but joined the Congregational Church, had Christmas trees, had presents. Um, so you just never know. Just never know. Those of you who know Jean Mandeville, her daughter, I believe, converted when she married um, Matthew, her husband, because the family demanded it, and she wasn't really religious anyway, so she went along with it. But they still celebrate Christmas. Because most of the Rhode Island Jews celebrate. Very interesting. Any questions? Comment? Bobby's having a nap.
No, she's away.
Oh, she's
I've
up
seen
there
her
behind the
moving
pop.
around. Yes. You know, I noticed when you were talking about Hanukkah and you go do the 8 candles, and at the end of the 8 candles, it's all to exemplify hospitality and giving, whatever. When Christmas first started, and I believe it was under Zoroaster, and that's where we get the date, is
Mhm,
Zoroaster.
mhm.
And their celebration that has converted into Christmas was all around hospitality. And so when you see the two parallels, hospitality was so valued then, and it's not valued now. It's almost, you know, people say, who bothers, and we don't need the respect of hospitality. And when you think of it, hospitality is at the base of a lot of festivities around this time of year.
Yeah, because everybody goes to party. Um, but also, I think the Jewish hospitality was celebration because they finally could get food.
Yeah.
And the greasy food, the oil base, was because of the lamp oil. So, but also it was about making sure their neighbors had food too. So
Yeah.
yeah, hospitality is definitely was a big part of that. Um, but it again, Christmas evolved into it's all about commercialism and presents. And I like presents just as much as anybody else. But if you could have seen my sister's tree last Saturday, and this was just for the baby. We have we have 6 babies, but only 4 of them were there. There were bags and bags of stuff that what does a 1-year-old need what he needs toys for? You know? Yeah, it was about hospitality because in my family we all bring food. We bring what we make best. um, but it's become so commercial that a lot of people are really turned off by it. And Carrie, I'm sure you have something to say to that. Are you there?
My main thoughts are in what we look to is it's a midwinter festival to celebrate, hey, we've had enough of a harvest that not only did we make it, but we can share with our neighbors and we can, take the extra to a food bank or work, do in some sort of service. And one of my favorite traditions here in the Appalachian Mountains is called the Santa Train. And this
Oh,
started ages and ages ago, I guess, during the Depression or before, where a train would wind its way through the mountains and give out toys or gifts or food at all these little tiny stops in these teeny towns. And to this day, there are lots of people who can't afford They still do the Santa train. They do it in November, and they come through with wrapping paper and gifts for children and throw out candy. And it's a lovely tradition. And the whole town gathers. And I wrote a short story about it. It's just lovely. But certainly where I live in Appalachia and where I grew up in the Midwest, it is definitely about, hey, we have enough. I'm so happy we have enough. Let me see if someone else can use help. So it's still alive, that tradition. And we've gotten to the point in our family where okay, what do you want? We have a spending limit. What do you want? You want an Amazon gift card or an Apple gift card? That's fine. What can I do? I'm not going to buy something to make me feel good. I'm going to buy something that you've chosen. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different uh, focus. And all of us in our family that still celebrate together are humanists or atheists or agnostic. So we focus more on each other.
Terrific. Now that you mentioned that, our state police and our local firemen collect toys for children, and they go to the DYF, Department of Children and Families, um, and Walmart lets them stand right outside or in the foyer of Walmart and collect toys as you leave. So you kind of gotta do it. It just kind of makes you feel guilty because there's these four cops standing there with their big Mountie hats on, and but they're very gracious when you do give something or when you choose to give money, um, and so they make sure the local children don't go without. Um, and Sally and John just on Friday went up to Crystal Visions, where my friend has a new age shop, and entertained a bunch of children that Lisa gives gifts to every Christmas because their families don't have a lot of money. And John and Sally donated their time. I thought it was really great. They get paid quite a bit of money to play Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus, but the kids were over the moon because John is a fabulous Santa Claus and he loves me. Um, so yeah, back to both of you, the hospitality, it's still there. It's still in the air. It's just not as publicized, I think, as the sell side of the festival. And when Matthew was young, he and his wife always had a solstice party besides. And nobody does that. Last time I went to one was at Sally's house, and I was the only one that showed up with Matthew. Nobody else came, which was sad because it's a beautiful celebration, the one Sally had. So some things are still there, and some things have gone by the wayside. Um,
Just speaking of solstice, I just put a link in the comments
oh,
to a short story that I
ooh, ooh,
sold a few years ago. I might have shared it last year. I can't remember, but it's about a solstice celebration. It's a
you
little
want
bit
to
of a,
read it?
oh, it's probably too long.
Ah, darn.
Oh, there goes Pebbles. It's in the link comments. It's just called Longest Night.
Longest night? Okay. Where can we find it?
I dropped a link in the comments to get it for
Okay.
free, but you just go to oh my goodness, there are the dogs.
It also brought up another great recommendation on Prime, on Amazon Prime. There's a lecture series called The Medieval Legacy. Medieval Legacy. And it has lots of episodes. And it really is such scholarly done. It shows the progression of ancient times and our beliefs, and then through the medieval time and up to present time, like the Marian cult, or like how Christianity made so many transitions to where it is now. It's a highly recommended lecture series. The other thing, Paula, I'd like to say is you brought up fond memory. 85 years ago, in the house that I remember, we put a candle in each window, and they were electrical, and they were elongated with a like a little orange bulb at the top, and we plugged it in, and that's how we celebrated the light. And it was simplified in those days. We didn't adorn the whole outside. Now it's progressed, so I have a big blow up Santa Claus. And I went beyond that because my great grandkids love dinosaurs. So now I have a blow up of Santa Claus riding a dinosaur.
Love it. Yeah, some people in my neighborhood, you can barely see their house for the lights, and the somebody's got a Mickey Mouse train in front of their house and 14 reindeer and a sleigh. And yeah, some people really go overboard, but kids love it, and that's what this is supposed to be for, the kids. So good for you, Grandpa. Bet they're very happy that you got Santa Claus riding a dinosaur. That wouldn't be my choice, but.
Certainly 80 years ago in Catholic schools, the nuns complained about the commercialism of Christmas, and we were forgetting about the Christ, and that was a big deal at that time. But you know what? Another way to look at that right now is it's a celebration of life. Now, however we do it, put a train in our front yard or a Santa Claus on our roof or whatever we're doing to celebrate life. And what else is there?
And the Christed one is the light of the world.
Yeah. So.
And he was sent to bring us light and enlightenment. Unfortunately, it didn't. As Jesus Christ Superstar said, if you're born in a different age with better PR, he might have made out better. But back then, there wasn't a lot of intellectual thinking, I would assume. And I think that his message got so scrambled by the powers that be. I mean, he just came to bring us love and light, and they really missed that boat, I think. At least the Catholic Church did.
Yeah, and if you look at just the transition from the beginning of Christianity, what's called Christianity, at the beginning, women were respected, and they had roles as equal to men, and that was well done for at least 150 years.
Yeah.
And then the patriarchy got in there, and the need for controls, and it made radical changes right up till now.
Yep.
And then priests were allowed to have families and that type of thing, and that got all thrown out, and it had a lot to do with property and possessions and who had control. And so
they didn't want somebody inheriting the church property. Yeah, pretty much.
It went from faith to power, political power, and the shortest verse in the Bible is God is love. And that's what the Bible should be. God is love. But man-made rules and dogma and whatever, I think in a lot of cases was formulated to project a power and to control people. And you control them by scaring them and tell them, if you're bad, you're going to hell. If you don't do what we say God says to do.
Right.
When it was never in the Bible anyway.
And so often, no matter who it was, kings or princes of anyone, they would say, I are Egyptians. I have the power of God, so you got to do what I say.
Yeah.
Obey me. So that's been going on forever. But when you look at love, I guess, on a maybe existential basis or on as broad as we paintbrush it, we can, it makes allowances for everything that's happening. Good or bad, no, we're the judge. But love does not judge.
The other thing I noticed is growing up, God was always a vindictive, punishing God. And somewhere along the line, when my kid sisters came through Catholic Church, he became suddenly a loving, wonderful father. I'm saying, what happened? Who said that? You know? But the Bible is full of that too. He supposedly punished Moses because he wasn't patient enough for the water to run. He struck the rock twice. I never did believe that. I just figured Moses was meant to die when he was meant to die, and that was it. But again, they project the God presence as
Vengeful.
nasty, controlling, vindictive. And again, I'm sure, like Kevin said, they used it for their own purposes because it gave them power.
And one of the ways we've learned to look at the Old Testament, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, it's simply the law of cause and effect. And so we learn, hopefully through elucidation, that we are the cause that created that effect, we as humanity. So we have an opportunity to change. And people are more interested in spiritual evolution certainly look within themselves to make that change.
If they're willing to take the responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not understand that there are consequences to every action, and you have to take credit for your good stuff, but you also have to take credit for your bad stuff. But most people, especially what I'm seeing today, is the blame game is it.
And Paula, another misnomer too is when we look at responsibility, we think of that as maybe a burden, and it's not. Responsibility just means the ability to respond. And so that's all. It's not heavy. So when we respond to our feeling nature, to our voices, however we respond, it's just a natural occurrence.
The big word that's hitting with me today in all this is hospitality. Christmas and Hanukkah started as a hospitality, but look what it's become today when we've turned everything into a Hallmark moment. And Hallmark sells just Valentine's Day alone. They outsell everybody, and I think they're working on outselling Christmas. And it was supposed to be the hospitality of love, and it's now become a box of chocolates, and it's better be better than last year's chocolates. And we got to get back to hospitality. Our Christmas memories are very few are of a gift we got, but the really special memories are sitting around grandma's table when she gave you homemade gravy that she made out of love. That's hospitality. That's what we have to do with Christmas, is make sure hospitality is in every room we're sitting in. That can be what we do.
Hospitality. Yeah, hospitality grows up. Kindness.
And hospitality welcomes refugees. Hospitality welcomes all your friends to make sure they have a good meal and lots to eat. And I love the story of the train going through the village where we got to reach out, and it's hospitality with giving those gifts to the child, and nobody's getting anything out of it, politically or whatever. But we need hospitality back in. And hospitality breeds respect, it breeds love, it breeds, you name it. I think I'll run that as my platform when I run for prime minister.
Well, you'll have to change one part of your story because chocolate is loved by everybody. And if I don't get my wife some chocolate, I'm not being very hospitable.
And my husband won't buy me chocolate because it's going to make me fat again. So I'm stuck without chocolate.
Cindy, your mouth is moving, but you're on mute.
Unmute, Cindy. Unmute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I'm just so technical savvy over here. Anyway. Okay.
What were you saying?
Just basically about the whole hospitality thing. It's about kindness. It's about loving, caring for another human being, making sure, people have a meal if they don't have a family on holiday, It's just simple acts of kindness, and it's really not hard, But I agree. We need to turn the clocks back and get away from the commercial, part of Christmas.
Well, if you succeed, I guess I better sell my Amazon stock.
Don't do it yet.
A lot of people I know are really cutting back financially, especially large families and even families that are well-to-do are setting really strict budgets for their gifts and making it more meaningful and less extravagant. And that I wonder if people aren't sensing that we have a real problem in our world today.
I think you're right, Kevin.
Yeah, that we have to start getting back to the hospitality, the simplicity of the true meaning of Christmas.
Yeah.
The gift of love.
Yeah. Absolutely.
2 o'clock this afternoon. That's what we're going to be celebrating because I'm going to be marrying 2 lovely young people. A last minute wedding, but it's going to be small and it's going to be fun.
And when is this?
2 o'clock this afternoon.
Oh, bless you. God bless you. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was a
Good luck.
last minute request, and we were able to put it together. And
That's awesome.
yeah,
You made it work. You did. That's lovely.
I love doing weddings. Not that
Me
a lot
too.
of mine have turned out
Yeah.
very well, but that's not my problem. I do the ceremony; they deal with their marriage.
It's up to them afterwards, right?
Right. But I always do the rose ceremony, where I give them each a rose and have them exchange the rose, and keep a vase where they can put a rose if they need to apologize for something. And most people are really affected by that.
That's beautiful ceremony. Yes.
It is a gorgeous ceremony, but I always insist on that being part of the wedding. They're not always thrilled with it in the beginning, but once they hear the words, they're like, oh, wow. Oh,
Connects to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, and of course Matthew said, well, why don't you just give him an artificial rose? And I said, Matt, the rose's job is to absorb that negative energy that they put out toward each other. And when it dies, that energy dies with it. He goes, oh. Okay.
That's a great ceremony. I'm glad you're continuing to use
Oh, I love it. I love that ceremony. Yep. I have not done any weddings without it.
And I love using the oil of rose in our other ceremonies. So,
Mhm.
And I love making my own rose oil because I finally have a rose bush that has a delicious smell to it.
Nice.
And this year it really produced a lot of roses, so I got a lot of rose oil this year.
Good.
If anybody wants some, let me know. Just email me and give me your address, and I'll send you some because I got it everywhere. And it's
Awesome.
it's a really light fragrance, but it's beautiful. And the roses themselves
Nice.
are gorgeous. So
Very good.
all the new ministers get one. Kevin, did I ever
Mhm.
send you rose oil?
Yes, you did.
I
Yes.
did. Okay. Couldn't
Yeah.
remember whether I
Yeah.
had any. But anyway, anybody wants one? Let me know. I have it all over the place. Anyhow,
So what's everyone's plan for Christmas?
My plan is to try to help this client cross over.
Okay.
She's
still
Kevin.
haven't crossed.
She's a miracle. This woman weighs 60 something pounds. And she's told me a month and a half ago she can't die before Christmas because she doesn't want to mess the holidays up for her two kids. But I've talked with her. I've sat with her, and she is ready to go home. She wants to be with her son who just passed this last year and her grandson who just passed this last year. So I guess this is supposed to be something I'm supposed to learn from. And I don't quite know what it is other than the human will is an amazingly powerful thing.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we certainly are more powerful beings than we realize.
Yeah.
My mother, it took me a long time to process it, but my mother looked like a Auschwitz victim. I mean,
That's what this woman looks like.
yeah, she had so many bed sores. You'd see all of her bones coming through. And
Yeah.
she was determined to wait for the birth of two more granddaughters, Tamsin and what's the other one? Well, anyway, I didn't understand it, but eventually, maybe 10 years later, I wrote a poem about it and put me more in touch with it's the will, but it's the power of love that
Mhm.
transcends the whatever's
Right.
going on.
Hmm.
Amazing.
And she's lucky to have you there.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. You know, I just keep praying for her. And I go in there and stand by her bedside and I just pray. And I say, I know that there's no clocks on the other side. And we kid, I tell Noreen, the Lord's making place for you. But one thing I learned that I was unaware of in this case was she is a born again Christian and her daughter's Catholic and I'm me. Okay. Well, evidently she was refusing her anxiety medicine because in her faith, they do not believe in depression and or anxiety and or medications for either of those things. And I think that's just the craziest thing I've ever heard of. So I sat down and I took her hand and I looked at her and I said, but I know the Lord does not want you to lie in this bed and suffer. The medicine is for you. It's comfort measures. That's why they're here. So today was the first day she allowed me to give her anxiety medication with her pain meds. So I'm hoping it will help her.
My mother had morphine packs. That's what helped her get through it.
Yeah, she's allergic to the morphine, so she's taking Dilaudid, which is
Uh,
as strong. Yeah,
yeah, pretty
yeah,
powerful. And
Well,
sometimes the Lord can cause anxiety too.
exactly. Yes.
So she needs the other medication.
Yeah. Just through experience of doing hospice care, I'm a firm believer that the both of them together just work together better, you know? Yeah. Anyway, so prayers if you all don't mind. Her name is Noreen.
Sorry.
And yeah, she's trying her best. And I've been here since Thursday night. No TV, folks. Been doing a lot of word searches and a lot of praying. And and my little thing I'm doing for my community is I ordered a bunch of cookie trays from some of my teen center kids that are now adults with grown children themselves, but I still call them my teen center kids because they bake around holidays. So I like to support them and buy a couple trays. So I bought a bunch of plastic containers, and I'm going to make a bunch of cookie containers and leave them in the locker that we have down next to the state police station, which is a locker for people if they're in need of food. There's food in there for you. So that's my way of giving back this year.
Great.
Yeah.
That's your hospitality.
Yep. You're right, Kevin. Yes. Yeah.
And I think today we'll end with a healing prayer, which will include her.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you.
Go ahead. I don't have anything else to add. So if you will.
What are we going to do next week?
Don't know.
Next week, Terry's coming.
Okay, we come. Oh, good.
So I suggested to her something for year end and looking forward to the new year.
New beginnings.
Yeah,
Nikki, you sound like you have a cold. I hope you feel better.
I'm getting through it. It's been a strange one.
Mm,
So, Cindy, your friend's name is Noreen. Is that what you said?
yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Charlie.
you're welcome. Yeah, so let's end our coming together today with a healing prayer. And we know that there's only one power and one presence and one life. And it's everywhere present. It's certainly present in Noreen right now. And it's in present of anybody that's in need, whether they have a cold or in a stage of transition or in a conflict of war or having poor relationships. Let us know that that power within us all renews, restores, reheals, and revitalizes everything that requires us to have in our present moment. So as the power and presence of God move through all creation, it certainly moves through all those of us in need of anything and provides for us whatever we require. And for that, I'm so grateful that the power of love, the power of hostility, the power of love and light, of expressing our wills in a harmonious way, brings out wonderful events. Miracles happen. Restoration comes alive. Renewal is certain. And for this, I give thanks for knowing that and knowing it is all done. And so it is.
It is. Thanks, Charlie. That was great.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, everybody have a wonderful Christmas, whatever your
Yes.
plans are.
Merry Christmas to you all. And we'll talk next week.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
holidays.
Terry. Love you
Take-
all.
Love you.
Blessings. Love you all. Bye-bye.